covering the stories that impact your life, your town, your state, and your future. This is the Means Report with your host, Brad Means.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Means Report. We certainly appreciate you spending part of your day with us, where today because it's the right thing to do and it's all we're thinking about, continue our post-Hurricane Helene coverage as our community continues to repair and recover. And we're trying to answer all of your questions, address all of your concerns as we continue to navigate these uncharted waters together. Today, FEMA is the focus. How do we get help from this federal agency? How do we make their lives easier so they can help us faster and better? Also, an update on the overall storm cleanup in our town. It seems to be going well. Seems like they're making a dent in it. District 7 Commissioner Sean Franham is going to update us. And then, of course, we'll wrap up the Means Report with more ways that you can stay in touch and help us get great guests like Nikki Gaskins Campbell. We welcome Nikki to our community. We wish she didn't have to be here. She's with FEMA, media relations specialist, and really our point of contact during this recovery. Nikki, thank you for what you're doing for us, and appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, when I look at my emails and I look at all the correspondence that we've gotten from you, I have deduced that there are two primary ways that FEMA is standing by to help, whether it's through the application for assistance, which you can do online or on the phone, or whether it's your actual physical disaster recovery centers that are around our community on the Georgia and South Carolina sides. Are those the two main ways y'all are helping right now?
So those are some of the main ways, but we're trying to cross all our T's and dot all our I's. We, of course, have the disaster recovery centers in the state of Georgia as well as throughout South Carolina. So people can go to FEMA.gov/DRC. Again, FEMA.gov/DRC to find the nearest disaster recovery center near you. You do not necessarily have to go to a disaster recovery center that's in the county you live. You can go to anyone that's convenient for you on the Georgia side or South Carolina side. We also have our crews going out into the field, what's called our disaster survivor assistance crews. They're going out into the communities under the guidance of local officials to find out what the needs are, because we realize maybe not everyone can come out and see us, so we're trying to go directly to them. We have our 1-800-621-3362 number, 1-800-621-3362 number. We also have the website, disasterassistance.gov, and our app, FEMA app. The FEMA app is on. There's a couple of ways that you can get us on the Android or Apple iPhone. So we're just trying to make sure people can reach us at whatever way is convenient for them.
Well, we appreciate that too. And Jared, our executive producer and director, knows that I did put a website and a phone number in our graphics system for this broadcast. If we need to add to that and list the other addresses for you, we will. Can you make us whole again? Can you fix our entire lives and make our homes like they used to be? Is that what FEMA does?
Yeah, so I want to manage expectations, and I'm glad you asked that question, because there is a big misconception as to what it is FEMA exactly does. We cannot make you whole. We were never designed to make you whole. Your insurance will always be your first line of defense. And then where they may not be able to cover everything, we might be able to fill in some of the gaps. But I always like to say that we are a piece of the puzzle. We are certainly not the entire piece. It takes the state, it takes the local officials, your nonprofits, houses of worship, all of us working collectively together to help disaster survivors on their road to recovery.
Yeah, but how do we know here in the early days, when we're still in the dark, and both literally in some cases and figuratively, how do we know what to do? How do we know at this early stage what insurance is going to cover and what FEMA is going to cover? And also, if we have homeowners insurance, is that an automatic no from y'all?
No, not at all. You know, some people may have renter's insurance, flood insurance, or homeowner's insurance, and they may not have enough. So we always tell people, if they're underinsured or uninsured, please reach out to us, because you may be able to get some assistance as well. So we want people to start the recovery process as quickly as possible. You know, don't wait for FEMA to come out and document any damage or anything like that. Start the recovery process as quickly as possible. If you have any receipts that you purchased items to use as part of your recovery, keep those receipts. Take photos, take video. All of that is going to be so helpful for when you do, if you do decide to reach out to FEMA.
Is income level a consideration, and can you reach a threshold income-wise where FEMA says no?
So that's another misconception. People think that, well, I make too much money, but the reality is your income is not dependent whatsoever on if you're eligible for FEMA. So don't think, oh, I make too much or I make too low or whatever. It's not a factor in the process. We just are more focused on what is the extent of your damage. So people need to be mindful of that.
We could go in the weeds for the rest of this interview on, what y'all pay for and what you don't, but give me a general feel, Nikki, if you can, as far as what kind of compensation we can expect. It seems like the $750.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions about that.
That seems like it's the easiest to get.
Well, you still have to apply, reach out. We have had some people think, I don't know where they get this from, probably social media in the community, that they just have to show up to wherever FEMA is, like a disaster recovery center, and they're going to get that $750. We're going to cut them a check right there. That is not accurate. You still have to go through the registration process, either at a disaster recovery center, online, or through the phone, or through the app. And not everyone will be eligible for that $750. It's not automatic. You have to, you have to be eligible for that. You also have to live in one of those eligible counties and suffer damage to your primary residence when you're starting that application process. That $750, it can be through direct deposit or a check in the mail, but it's for immediate needs like medicine, food, baby formula, possibly fuel for your vehicle, and it has to be within 30 days of the disaster occurring. So we encourage people that we're still in that threshold of that timeline to, if they think they may need assistance, whether you are qualified for that $750 or other FEMA assistance, to go ahead and reach out to us. There's also a big misconception out there, well, that's all you're going to be eligible for from FEMA, $750.
Right.
But that's in addition to other assistance you may be eligible for through FEMA.
If we rode this post-storm period out in our hot, powerless, waterless, couldn't flush the toilets houses, can you give us some money for that?
That's the magic question. We get asked that a lot, and also we are asked, well, my neighbor's getting all this and he didn't suffer nearly as much damage, but do you really know the extent? It all is dependent on how you answer the application. So we just really encourage people to file with your insurance. That's the first thing you need to do right away if you have it. And then go ahead and reach out to us. Come see us, call us on the phone to ask the questions, because we're really focused on making sure you have a roof over your head.
Right.
So we're focused on short term. We're not necessarily focused on your long-term recovery, but we know that if you go ahead and get a jump start on your short-term recovery, it'll be a little easier when you go ahead and start focusing on the long-term recovery. So it's important that people, again, be mindful to go ahead, and we're going to be here for quite some time, but go ahead and get that process rolling. But it's a case-by-case basis. I know people don't like to hear that, but it truly is. We also hear people say, well, how much money can I get from FEMA? It is a case-by-case basis.
All right, so let me ask you this, and you've already answered it, so just, this will be quick. It's okay to start cleaning up, or it's okay to start
absolutely
debrising our yard. When y'all come, we can say, hey, this tree used to be here, I moved it. Can y'all please hook me up? And we'll see what y'all say, but it's okay to start.
But exactly, if this tree, we're focused not on secondary properties or sheds or anything like that. We're focused on making sure you have a safe place to go, that your home is intact, it's livable. So people need to keep that in mind, because some people reach out and say, like, oh, my garage or my shed suffered damage. We want to make sure you are able to live safely in your home. In the event that is not the case, we may be able to assist you.
All right, so so shed is a no, garage is a no, most likely. You're focused more on, hey, there's a hole in my roof. All right, FEMA can probably help you get a tarp up there.
And that's through that. It's dependent. It's so many variables, and I know people don't like to hear that, but we just urge people to reach out to us and go ahead and start that process. And again, your hole in your roof, if your insurance agrees to cover that, then that's going to be where you get that assistance from, because again, we cannot duplicate insurance payments.
If we get rejected by FEMA, whether it's for the $750 or whether it's for some of the items that you've outlined already, is it worth it to appeal, or is that no final?
That no is not final, so we want people to have some hope, because we do hear a lot of people as we progress during a disaster say, oh, FEMA denied me. That is not necessarily the end-all be-all. You will get a letter. Some people call it denial letters, but I don't like to call them that because it's not necessarily denial. Perhaps you got a letter and it said you're only getting X amount of dollars. That wasn't necessarily a denial, you just weren't happy with the amount that FEMA had to offer. So I call it a determination letter. If you don't agree with the amount that FEMA is offering you, or you were just flat out denied, please read the letter carefully. It will outline what you need to do to start the appeal process, but don't delay, because you don't have an infinite amount of time to appeal the decision. You have to pay attention to the date that's listed on the letter, and 60 days from that letter you can appeal it. So just please be mindful of that, and it will tell you all the different ways who to get in contact with to get the appeal process going.
You know, we were talking before this interview about how busy you've been. You and your team at FEMA have been all over this nation responding to disasters all year long. Are you going to run out of money or resources? Should we be fearful of that?
So we've had that a lot, asked that a lot from, gosh, I've been working hurricane season this year since I told you before we went on the air, Hurricane Beryl, and we've had that question asked of us a lot. And I can tell folks here in the state of South Carolina, as well as in the state of Georgia, we have the appropriate funding to help you recover. So please reach out to us and start that recovery process. We don't want people to hear what they see on social media and think, well, I'm not going to apply because FEMA doesn't have the funding. We encourage you to apply because you could be leaving money on the table. So start the process right away, clean up right away, reach out to us right away.
Two more questions probably. One is, how long are you going to be here? Do you know when you're going to shut down those disaster recovery centers and FEMA will be no more? Do y'all have a hard date?
We don't have a hard date. I always tell everyone that asks us that we are here as guests of the state of Georgia, as well as a guest of the state of South Carolina. As long as those state counterparts want us here, we will remain here.
What can we do to make your job easier? What sort of paperwork or preparations can we do so that when FEMA comes calling or we come to you, we go through the process more smoothly?
Just make sure you have all your documentation. It does not require that you come to the disaster recovery centers with an ID, but it would be helpful if you had your insurance information, an award letter that outlines what they may cover. Be able to prove you are who you say you are. If you do decide to file for disaster assistance, make sure you're able to say you are the owner of that property, that primary residence. All those will be very helpful and make the process a lot smoother and quicker for you.
I just thought of one more question. I hesitate to ask it because it sort of comes from social media, which can, shocker, be super negative. But there were comments on Facebook, I think this morning, that were reflecting the frustration of people who said sometimes it takes a long time for FEMA to call me back, or they said a person was going to come knock on my door today and he or she has not. Can you address that as far as folks who are watching right now saying, hey Brad, nice interview, but FEMA's not helping me?
So we have seen, especially with Helene, a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and blatant lies out there. Yeah. And it has been very disheartening. It's made our job a lot harder. It does two things. It makes it unsafe for us as FEMA employees, because sometimes we have to pull back in the communities that we're trying to work. And secondly, it hurts the very people we are trying to help. So I would say to people to please refrain from any rhetoric and don't be so quick to share what you see on social media. I would like to also say that FEMA is here in the state of South Carolina. We are here in the state of Georgia. We are working long hours, meeting face to face with disaster survivors. We are working around the clock to help as many people as possible. So before you think about sharing something, think twice, because it really hinders our mission.
Boy, that's powerful, and that's an appropriate way to wrap it up. Y'all be nice to Nikki Gaskins-Campbell and her team. These are real people with real families who have said, see you when I see you. I'm going to go save Georgia and South Carolina in the wake of a horrific storm. Thank you for what you do. Please share that with your colleagues. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Nikki Gaskins-Campbell with FEMA. When we come back, Sean Franham, District 7 Augusta Commissioner, to tell us how the community is working with Nikki and her team to try to get us out of this on the Means Report.